Good morning. If we could elect a chairperson, please.
Can I nominate Councillor Dan MacDonald, please?
And I will second.
Thank you very much. And we haven't got no apologies for absence, have we, today? So, and we haven't got records of meeting, have we, Nicola, to agree? Nothing to agree to. Okay. I have no urgent matters of reason of special circumstance. Are there any declarations from our panel of disclosable pecuniary interest or other significant interests at all, members? Nothing at all? Great. Okay, we're moving on to item 6, which is the application for a new premises licence at Budgens, 1 Block C, Pioneer Wharf. Just an apology at the beginning. Obviously, the agent, you gave us new operating instructions again. It would be really good to try and get these in good time. Before that, that's why we're starting a little bit late, because we've had to review them again. Okay, that's okay. This way round for introductions, please, before I move on to Victoria.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Councillor Joanne Howcroft-Scott and I chair the Children's Committee, and I'm a councillor for Chatham, Luton Ward.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Murray and I represent the Director of Public Health.
Good morning, my name's PC Carrie Knight. I represent Kent Police for the licensing matters.
Good morning, PC Andre Smuts, Kent Police Licensing.
Good morning, my name is Suresh Kanavadi. I will be speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Hi, good morning. I'm the applicant, Jenny Benedict. Should be hopefully managing the store.
Good morning, I'm Helen Budgen, Licensing Officer.
Morning, I'm Victoria Finnegan, Licensing Officer.
V. Krishnan, I'm the Legal Advisor.
Nicola Couchman, I'm here to keep a record of the meeting.
Oh, thank you. Ward Councillor for the Who and High Housetown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm Councillor Dan MacDonald. I'm chairing today's committee. So can I go over to Victoria to present the case?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. On the 9th of June 2025, we received a new premises licence application for Budgens, 1 Block C, Pioneer Wharf, Chatham. An appendix of the cumulative impact assessment called Chatham High Street can be found as Appendix A of this report. It is attached for information as the premises is located within this designated area. This can be found on pages 11 to 13. This application is for the sale by retail of alcohol as off sales daily between 6 AM and 1 AM and late night refreshment daily between 11 PM and 1 AM. The application includes the operating schedule, which details the conditions the applicant is offering to promote the licensing objectives. A copy of the application and plan can be found at Appendix B on pages 15 to 31. During the consultation, we received 4 representations. We received a representation from Public Health on the 26th of June. This was in relation to two of the licensing objectives, the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. This can be found at Appendix C on pages 33 to 47. We received a representation from Kent Police on the 4th of July relating to two of the licensing objectives, prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. This can be found at Appendix D on pages 49 to 53. Kent Police submitted additional information on the 17th of July. This can be found on pages 29 to 37 of the supplementary agenda. We received representation by a member of the public relating to all four licensing objectives. This can be found at Appendix E, pages 55 to 57. We received representation from Trading Standards on the 7th of July relating to the protection of children from harm. A copy of this can be found at Appendix F, page 59. On the 10th of July, Trading Standards withdrew their representation after the applicant agreed to a proposed condition. This can be found on page 39 on the supplementary agenda. The agent submitted further documentation on the 17th of July. This can be found on pages 3 to 27 on the supplementary agenda. It is for the panel to decide on the appropriate action for this application, taking into account all the evidence brought to your attention, both written and oral. Alongside the Licensing Act 2003 and its associated guidance, the panel can decide to A, grant the licence as applied for, B, amend the application, C, adding or amending conditions, or D, refusing the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much for that. We're going to have you speaking on behalf of the applicant. Over to you to put your case.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, I think this particular premises is a newly built and new developments, and which I'm sure you are aware of. Already close to me, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've been, before even we put the application, we search on Google to find the locations and find the place. And we've been really following the Kent's online, the news as well. And actually from the beginning to the end, since 2020, they've been publishing on a regular basis articles about this place. And we ourselves, Chair, I think we were really excited about these new developments and also processing these applications. And also looking at one of the requirements from the council where the Budgens, they requested, we also put a press notice about these applications so the public is aware of it and it's a positive things to come out. Everybody should know. And I'm just reading the Kent's online report as well. It says, the retailer owned by the Booker Group previously had a store in Gillingham, but it closed in 2017 as part of the scaling back. As you know, the Budgens have a history from 1872 where they started it, and it's been a venture, and then it's bought by Tesco. It's actually in a way it's owned by the Tesco now. And they mention about the Medway Development Company, which is part of authorized by the council. And they've been developing this place, and they mention about the public, the bus station as well. It's got 182 flats across 5 blocks, one of which Pioneer Wharf, which is one of the Budgens store is. The ground floor of the Pioneer Wharf building, which is closest to the Chatham bus station, is to be home to over 1,000 square meter, right? Stop, which is permission will be able to sell alcohol from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m., 7 days a week. Budgens also applied for a late night refreshment, like the Chair, I think the application they're mentioning about. The reason I was reading, Chair, I think, and also a little background of this applicant. This is for them. It's like a 6th Budgens store. The Budgens really, part of Tesco, they don't really give permission to anyone and everyone. Getting a permission to open this store is a big things for them as well. And also, Chair, I think it's a largest investment they are bringing in, more than 300K in order to get this place. And it's going to really support the local economy. They will have at least minimum 20 staff going to work for them locally. They're going to give an employment. And Jenny here is the manager, and she will have 2 assistant managers. The whole structure is totally different. It's so exceptional, I think, when you look at these applications. Chair, I think, as you know, part of this, the whole building is built a commercial premises. There are about 6, Chair, and last Sunday I was really walking around. I took a video as well, but I think we couldn't play it today. But I was walking around the whole place. And really, I was so excited. It's so clean and so perfect. And then I seen people are walking, and there's a sun pier. You know, I was walking down there as well. There are families really enjoying, and the people started living there already. So I was, it's so clean. I mean, I couldn't see any litter, and the pier is totally improved. Now, Chair, when we put this application, my colleague was doing the application, Chair. I think we acknowledged that we were thinking it's quite difficult to locate the whether it is fall into CIP or not. But when we went into Medway Council website, you know, the policy is 2018, so this is outside the CIP zone, cumulative impact zone, and also, and then with the new policy also, I actually printed it out, 60 pages of it. I was trying to, you know, even the picture we had, I don't know where you get that from, but it's quite difficult to locate, you know. But we are not doing it as an excuse, but we acknowledge that, you know, it's something that we didn't mention it in the applications. We acknowledge that. And in the meantime, Chair, I think we mentioned about this place, which is really exceptional in terms of this new developments, and we mentioned that in the applications. And Chair, I think I was away, and then I came back. Actually, I had to go on an emergency trip abroad, and then last week I was trying to contact the authorities, and the police came back to me over the weekend and said they didn't have the time to meet, you know, towards end of last week, and so we met today. And the licensing officer, we didn't able to contact him. There's no emails, and then I had an email, but Gmail address, then there's no response from them as well. But I understand, Chair, I think when we do an application, it is our responsibility to mention, you know, if there's a cumulative impact policy. And me, myself, personally, you know, we've been dealing with licensing, and we know aware of this. And the applicant is totally aware of that now, Chair. I think we've been going through that. And Chair, I think, and the other thing I wanted to mention, Chair, I think we understand that area, you know, have so many off licenses. I've been walking around up on the high street, and there are, at least I show, there's a Premier, Simply Local, and some other Best One, and few other stores. And also the police mentioned about the other stores above as well on Chatham. And Chair, I think when we put an application for a cumulative impact areas, so there are steps that we have to take to make sure we are not adding to any existing problem that already exists. Chair, I think, you know, dealing with this application, we know that the street ringers is one of the issue on page 12, and the police also mentions about there's a paragraph they're clearly writing. There are off licenses. On there, they have no limit on alcohol. They sell more than 5.5 of high-strength beers, and that contribute to the antisocial behavior and crime in that area. But then, you know, now that, Chair, I think we are updated the operating schedule, which you already have. I will go through that in a few minutes. But coming back to this Budgens, Chair, I think it's not an off license. We don't call it Tesco, Sainsbury an off license. You know, we call them a supermarket. And then when you look at the alcohol part of it, you know, with the overall thing, it's very tiny. When you look at a small convenient off license, you know, the alcohol part will be maybe 20-25%, or maybe sometimes 30%. But when you look at this larger premises, this is quite a large premises. It's got a bakery, and it has the dairy product, and the alcohol is, even in the plan, is only a small part of it. You know, the spirits will be behind the counter, and on the side there's a wine and the beer bridge. You know, it's a very, I think I would think it's less than 10%, probably is associated with 5%. So it's a very tiny part of that area. Chair, I think alcohol is important to be make it available. And Chair, I think this store, Chair, I think, when you really look at it, is for the local residents, nearly 180 residences. And in terms of now the question here that we, okay, now we acknowledge that, it's an accumulative impact area, then how are we going to make sure that we don't contribute to any street ringing or antisocial behavior or any public nuisance in that area, Chair? So we agreed we are not going to sell single cans of beer. Chair, also I wanted to mention, I was speaking to the Budgens head office actually were talking to me. They said you got to mention few things to the committee. So one of the things said, they supply product on a 4 cans. So they sell, like any other supermarket, all their supplies got 4 cans, so they will be supplying in a 4 cans. So we have, I think already the operating schedule has that, so we agree conditions on that. And also the high strength beers, the Budgens or Tesco, they don't supply those products, things like a special brew, Kestrel Super, and all kind of things. Key ciders, it's not part of their product anyway. But in any case, Chair, I think we agree conditions on that. And also, Chair, I think we put the application and the assumption that is outside the cumulative impact policy area, but we amend the hours as well now, Chair. I think we applied until 1 a.m. in the morning, so we'll have, the store is going to be open 6 o'clock because they have bakery product, coffee, tea, and things like that as well. And all the other milk product that is important for the local residents as well. I think a lot of them are working people and they want to pop down and get a milk. The store opening 6 o'clock is a great benefit. And then closing time also 11 o'clock. So the opening hours we are amending is between 6 and 11. And also we would like to have the licensing hours similar, but to the opening hours, considering, we have agreed number of conditions to address the cumulative impact policy. So I think, talking about that, Chair, I think one of the other thing I would like to mention, the whole area, we call them a regeneration area, is part of the council project. So I was looking at a dictionary, meaning of regeneration is actually a renewal and revival of the whole area. So when the policy came into effect, the place, I was looking at the old picture, it was look like a little dump yard, really, I wouldn't say that word, maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but the place is like that. So right now, Chair, I think when I was walking in, it's a highly developed area and totally regenerated. Maybe if you were reviewing the policy in next time, you might be thinking whether there is a need for it. Because for me personally, I was, in London, there's a Peckham. The area was similar to this kind of area, but they rebuilt the whole area. But after 10 years, 5 years now, whenever I visit, the whole area developed more and more and totally transformed, from like, trouble-deprived area, because I think the policies keep saying the word deprived. They applied a lot of the things, but I think the area is going to be transformed from deprivation to kind of a high level, because if you look at all the apartments here, they have nearly sold all of it, and even the single bed costs more than £200,000, So the kind of residents there, it's not, they are kind of, working class and, mostly, people working in the offices and things like that. And also the pier, the seaside is going to be much improved. I don't think if anybody even drinking, they wouldn't tolerate it. They will call the property management company or the council, that will, because it's a very open place as opposed to old time, maybe it will be hiding. Chair, I think I would take a long time on it. But I think, Chair, I think I would like to invite you, I think the authorities as well, to look at this really positively, is the positive contribution to the local economy as well, because when I looked at this property, they will be paying like a high amount of business rate, as opposed to a small store, they may not have a business rate. All the other things, employments, and it's a highly contributed. But in the meantime, it's about promoting the licensing objective, why we are here today. So we have updated the operating schedule as well, Chair. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you for now.
Thank you. Before I pass over to objector, just 2 points from me. I'd rather us not call our area a dump yard and refer to residents, the right residents and the wrong ones. Just a comment from me, if you don't mind.
All right. No
And just for members and for members here, your timelines, you being away, has got nothing to do with us on this panel reviewing this application. That's down to you and your teams to make sure you put enough time in. I just wanted to make sure that that's no fault of ours. That's your side that went away and didn't research the things properly.
Thank you.
Who's going first on this? Is it you, Karen? Or Barbara? It's up to you. Karen, go first.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. Thank you for your comments there. Understandably, I'm going to have a few questions to ask. Coming from Kent Police's side, which is the crime and disorder aspects and stuff, which I think I've highlighted and I'll speak about later. You mentioned at the beginning of what you were speaking about there, about a walk around the area and trying to have an understanding from your own point of view of the area. Can I just ask exactly where you've walked? Because by the sounds of it, you've walked around where the premises is going to be located and that immediate area, but how far have you been?
I walking up the high street. When I walk up, and then I see a Premier store, I think, the first one. And then when I walk further down, there was a Simply Local. And then I would work further down, there's a Best one, maybe Best, something like that, similar store. It's not too far, from each other. So 3 store, I walk up to that place. And then also I walk the side of the premises. And there is a shopping center, opposite. So I was walking that street also very clean, I show that. I think I put up a video as well. I don't know whether you had the opportunity to see it.
From the sounds of that, then you've walked towards the Rochester end. That's my understanding of it. You've walked towards Rochester. Have you walked any of the other side of Chatham? You mentioned the high street there. How much of the high street have you?
No, I didn't walk there, but I was driving through there. Yeah, I think you mentioned it on your reports. Yeah.
To just confirm, driving around the area. Okay. Apart from, obviously, the bits you've just spoken about there and the area, apologies, Chair, I thought I had it on. Apologies. You've mentioned about walking around the area, driving around the area then. What understanding do you have of the problems that are in the area? You've mentioned about the SIP, and I appreciate that you haven't looked at it fully, but just from your understanding, the applicant's understanding, what's the problems in the area?
Thank you. I think when we, like I mentioned, when we looked at this licensing policy initially, I'm not making any complaints, but I think it wasn't really obvious, to see that. But we were in the assumption that only the high street is covered by the SIP, not the Medway road. So then we thought it's outside the hours, outside the CIP zone. And then we looked at the other areas when we read the licensing policy of the Medway Council policy, and we noticed there are issues like street ringing and antisocial behavior, it's very deprived, people backing and all kind of things, But then we thought, because it's outside area, we put conditions that is to promote the licensing objectives generally. And then normally, if that in that area, then we will definitely will put a conditions like not selling spice and beers and things like that, Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. You've touched upon street drinkers there. That is only one of my concerns within the area. It is quite an area known for antisocial behaviour, street drinking, etc. You've touched upon just then the conditions that you've offered this morning in the operating schedule, which were training. Can I just ask the level of training, because I think all of us know here how problematic people that drink alcohol can be, or to the extent it could potentially get to. I'd just like to have an understanding of the training and to what depth.
You have, as a manager of the store, I think it's fine.
We have it's obviously regularly reviewed. We train them on, yes, antisocial behaviour, not serving people that are already consumed what we might consider too much, or you can tell. We've been in this business for 30 years now, so we've been there and done that with it. It's what we find is that we're quite a friendly sort of group. It's our business, so we need people to come in, otherwise it's not going to work. So we're very friendly, very approachable. We find we can create quite good relationships with everybody.
And in terms of training, how often you keep
the training,
and
yeah, sort of every
training program you have?
Yeah, we have quite a complete booklet that goes through each of the objectives and making sure that they understand what we mean by preventing, harm to children, or making sure you've got wet floor signs out, or whatever it might be. It goes through the whole thing, fire extinguishers, whatever. It goes sort of through everything. We do that. I think we refresh at least every 6 months, but definitely when new people come in. It's something we know. We're very aware that you slip up on one thing and it's gone. As I say, we've been in the business long enough to help prevent. Obviously, we do the training because we can't watch everybody the whole time we're open. 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. would be slightly unreasonable, even remotely, to watch. But we do have that as well. We have remote CCTV, so we can watch the store. If someone says they had an issue, we can have a look at it and see what we think they might have been able to do better, and train that way, as well as literally going through it point by point.
And you're also operating other premises in the very challenging area where the street ringing, and
Yeah.
you manage them effectively.
Yeah, and we have relationships with licensing officers in other areas, with the police, the local PCSOs or whatever. I can't even remember if that's what they're called now, but we know them by face rather than by their badges. And again, it's a matter of keeping the relationship going there. We're very, very aware of the situation, and it's not something we're. I mean, we will do what we can to.
And your experience you had, and I know you're talking about the other store you are managing. At least about 5-6 people street ringing. They don't.
Yeah,
you know them, so you kind of.
We
ban
do know them.
from
We
it.
can move them along. I mean, there's a limit to what we can do as a premises holder. We don't sell to them, but if they have things in the from elsewhere, but it's we try and manage it as best we can. We have contact details for whoever we can contact. They have that relationship as well, so we can always report things ourselves, as well as. We don't wait until there's an issue. We have incident books. We have all that kind of thing. So it's recorded. But yeah, the staff are trained to not aggravate the situation. And I'll get a phone call if I'm not there, or if we've got an office set up as well. So they've got a lot of lines of communication that and just hopefully then we can manage it.
And the litter as well.
Sorry, can I just? You're sort of having a conversation. Can we stick to the question for a minute? Because no one can hear what you're saying. Maybe use it in your sum up if you need to, but I just want to get back to the question if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. By the sounds of what you've just said there, it's very much in-house training. Is there any kind of external training, for instance, like conflict management training that you would offer?
We could if we needed. We've not needed to go down that road anywhere else, so I haven't.
The only reason I mention that is because Chatham has got quite a lot of issues, having dealt with people before in my own job and past roles that I've been in, so I do know it can be quite challenging. Thank you.
Can I just say, in that case, can we make sure we exchange details for that sort of a thing? Because I'd rather, we can get them on a course if you think that would be something would be good from us to do from the get-go.
feel like I'm going to go on and on and on, Chair, if I'm honest, so I'm going to pause now and ask Barbara if she has any questions.
Barbara, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So you've given some measures that you say will make sure or ensure that you do not add to the issues that are already in that area. And the one that my colleague has highlighted is the street drinking and the antisocial behaviour in that area. Can you expand on how you will ensure that your sale of alcohol from your premises will not add to those issues, please?
Yeah, thank you for asking that questions. You know, the Budgens, like any other supermarket itself, is exceptional in the way they operate. The management structure and everything else is managed by that. And the other thing is the street ringers is well known. You know, they one of the things, a lot of street ringers, they like to drink like high strength beers, which we know, right? I think it's been mentioned on the reports as well, clearly. And then we are not selling that store itself, and we are also having a conditions on that. And they also buy a single cans, you know, because normally they won't have enough money. They will buy one and then come back for the next one, like that. So the store is not selling singles units. The other thing is the way this store is managed, the majority of people coming there will be doing big shoppings, you know, their general items. Like any other supermarket, because a lot of people going to the supermarket, you know. But considering that there are other premises in the area, which mentioned by the police on the Chatham Street and all that, where they have high-strength beer, single cans and things like that. So those people more likely to go there and get it. But I think regardless of that, so these measures is really working, because I've been working with another cumulative impact area with other authorities as well. And you know, it is proven that this works with a single can and strong beers and things like that. Having that measures will not add to the existing issues. But also you heard from the manager there that, you know, they will identify those people who, you know, it's not really hard to do that. And then you could really ban them not coming to the store. So they will be not coming here. Thank you. And it is manageable.
I was just going to say we're quite strict, and particularly when you open a new store, I think you have to get to know the local area, and you can identify the troublemakers quite quickly. The staff are sort of aware of those kind of things. So I think if we're, as we are everywhere else, but you're strict from day one, the word gets around, and it's not even worth their trouble, really, is what we find. They will try elsewhere, as we're on it from day one. Much easier to manage that.
Another one of the issues in this area is domestic abuse, which has got a very strong association with alcohol consumption. And I would ask you the same question. How can you ensure that the sale of alcohol from your premises does not add to the domestic abuse that is in this area?
How to word this? If you can, what you're thinking, you can trace back where they've bought it from, in order, like, and there. So it's just because we don't stand in the shop and go, we'll sell to you, but we won't sell to you unless there's something we can, you know, obviously see as a problem. Like I say, if they've already been drinking or other things, I don't. Again, we haven't come across anything as like a direct link like that. I've never had that come up. So yeah, I would welcome anything you can help us with identifying that sort of issue, I think. But we're pretty vigilant, as I said. I mean, if there's clearly an issue, then we wouldn't sell to somebody who we felt was about to go home and. But I don't know. Would you add anything?
Yeah, I think also with the domestic abuse, those people would like to drink like a high-strength beers. I think from my experience, maybe not. because it's getting drunk and mentally, get mental disorder from those high-strength beers, which the store is not selling.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've just got a couple of questions, if I may. Do you feel that the sales of alcohol won't worsen the existing impact in Chatham? Because it's a community impact area for a reason. That's my first question. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we really acknowledge that the reasons for the cumulative impact policy in place, and especially around that area, already have issues. We acknowledge that. And then coming back here, where we are going to be exceptional in the sense that we don't contribute to the existing issues. I think we also need to look at, as opposed to an off license, we are a supermarket, and this tiny percentage of the places for the alcohol and the quality of product that we sell also not going to contribute. And the question is, if there is a 10 street ringers, for example, and then when we open this store, is it going to be 12? That's the questions we have. But we are saying, it won't go up to anything extra. Due to the steps, we have a number of steps we have taken control of alcohol sales, which we have already stated. But also we have to look at the whole management structure of the business as well. So in terms of the structure, they have a number of staff working. At the same time, the management structure, which is, we said, the manager and the 2 assistant managers, for the weekend managers, weekdays managers, and then the GPS and the staff training programs. All this, all the conditions that operating schedule we have provided is going to support, not contributing the problems in terms of promoting the licensing objectives. Thank you.
Have you considered health inequalities and the local alcohol-related harm before making your application?
We did, definitely we did, because we looked at it, we mentioned the only thing we were, from the report that we show, we thought it is outside because this link and we didn't get it, but we have number of steps. But on the other hand, the store itself, also we didn't put as a part of the operating schedule, the store itself promoting the licensing objective in the sense that they don't already not selling strong beers, they are not already selling single cans, they get all 4-packed coming. And then all those things, we were really excited about this is the whole new operation, and also we looked at that area, it's a regeneration and it's really, I think that's what we were, when we did the application, that's what we had in mind, because already the structure that company has, plus all the other things.
Thank you. And finally, you led me into this last question. Can you provide any local data or assessment showing the demand for additional alcohol outlets in Chatham, please?
Well, what I would like to say, this particular store is part of those development, is authorized by the council as well. It's been well planned. So part of the planning operation, part of the planning, take a one store to open in that amount like 6 units. So one of the units is already open. It's a big tanning store, and there will be a gym, there will be a restaurant, and there will be, like that. And there won't be no other retail store because this particular permission, to one retail store in that area. So who are the customers? The majority of customers, this is for part of the regeneration project to support. in a way, if you really look at it, the supermarket coming here is really great because great in the sense that, it's assist the local residents. And
Sorry, I don't know if you got my question, but it doesn't seem to be being answered. Can I just say it again? Can you provide local data or assessments showing the demand or the need for additional outlets in Chatham? Have you done any of that background?
I can answer that as well. But what I was saying, the demand, the way we're looking at the demand, this is the store for the local, the people living there in the flats above. Mostly that is part of the whole plan.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to get clarity. I'll move on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Sands.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions, really. The first one was about the domestic violence. And I think I got the impression that you hadn't really thought about that too much. So have you been in contact, Budgens as a company, with local domestic abuse groups? Because they might be able to assist in what goes on in houses. It's quite obvious that a lot of domestic abuse comes from alcohol. I think we have the figures there. And so I was quite surprised about just that. I thought it was quite flippant that you said you couldn't tell. So that worries me slightly, and it also worries me that possibly if you can't tell, then how are you going to kind of police everything else? Because this is very, very close to the bus station, and the school kids are there, and the elderly are there, and it doesn't need too many people who have had a few cans of whatever lager, however strong, to be frightening. And I don't understand. And your colleague said that you've looked at the marketing. How many people want to buy a beer at 1 o'clock in the morning? I mean, maybe it's me. I don't buy drinks at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I don't understand why we have to have licensing right up to 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not even sure why we need it at 6 o'clock in the morning, to be honest. So what does your marketing tell you? Is this just about you're open and the odd sale of that will come through and that's good for you? Because it doesn't. I don't think it's good for the local community to be open at 6 o'clock in the morning for alcohol and 1 o'clock for alcohol.
Thank you. I think there's a few things you mentioned about the domestic violence and whether we were aware of those domestic violence and the data and things like that. I think like the applicant said, sometimes the Budgens, once they open, they ongoingly work with the authorities together to address any concerns. But the domestic violence is caused by when people have like too much of alcohol. But people already have access to alcohol, but whether we're going to contribute extra, So like we said, this particular premises is really, really for the local residents, living over there in that compound, and also any other people could be coming as well. And, it is about the management, how you're going to manage it. But I know you mentioned about the bus stop. I was there. From looking at from the store, when you look at it, you can clearly see the bus stop. It's a new development. It's beautiful. We love it, right? And they've been, anybody drinking over there, they can see it. But normally, if somebody want to drink a beer, they want to buy a single can. There's no access to single cans of beer, from these premises. Like we said, it's like selling a 4-pack. It's very unlikely, the price and all that kind of things will kind of prevent that as well. But also, the other thing I would like to say, it's not a hiding place. It's a very open place. Anybody drinking, it's very public, So when it is something very public, it is manageable. And the Budgens itself, they have a system in place, and people can even report to the Budgens, store management, and they will be working with the store. And they have, the Budgens have, they supply a policy, the store policies, store system, part of it, they covered all of this. And in terms of cleaning as well, they will be, looking after the bus stop area and also the front area. If there's any litter, not just alcohol we are talking about, any other litter as well, they will have it litter free. Because I know they are managing few other premises over 30 years and 6 Budgens store. If they can't manage it properly, the Budgens won't give the license to sell. I mean, a franchise operation license, and then again, the way they store alcohol in the store, and kind of, the tiny percentages contribute to the alcohol. It's not very, it is kind of a supermarket. It's not very attracted. But in any case, I can tell you, it is manageable. It is that the store can take responsibilities. That's one of the reasons the management structure they have. They have really 3 managers is working, 1-person manager and 2 assistant managers. And then, down there they have supervisors, staff. The structure is also well good. And they can monitor the area. It's not really hard to monitor it because it's not, bus stop is not hiding on the behind or on the side or hideaway. It's a very open place, Yeah, those are the 2 questions you asked. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you for that. Just to pick up, you when we talked about domestic violence, and you said there's already plenty of alcohol available. So my answer is, if there's plenty of alcohol available in Chatham, why do we actually need another outlet?
I mean, there are 2 ways we can look at that, okay? So imagine there is a 10 domestic violence, for example. I say on the data, like 10 domestic violence, for example. Now the question will be whether this store is selling alcohol, whether it's going to increase to 12, increase to 14. But what we are saying, it will not. Why it will not? Because the store itself is located in an area, it's a very open space, and majority of customers probably local. And also, the store is selling so many bakery items, so many other products. The people going to do like a big shopping. It's very unlikely somebody coming for, I mean, obviously we are not selling single cans of beer, right? But then again, the word I would say, is, I mean, this is where we promote the 4 licensing objectives, the step we are taking to promote the licensing objectives. And that's one of the things we were looking at, control of alcohol, one of the things, to not to add any extra problems. Thank you.
Can I just start? My first question would be going back, I'm starting backwards from Councillor Sand's question, I suppose, around your answer being you have policies in place. You have no conflict management policy in place across a store with years of history. You have no domestic violence policy or training in place across a store going back in time of history and now under Tesco. What other policies, why don't you have conflict training as part of your policy, no matter where you are in the country? Why don't you have that as part of your integral to protect your staff in any area that they may get abuse or anything on at the door or in the shop or at the tills? Why don't you have that, Vicky, in a store with so much history?
We do have training for conflict, for not escalating anything, but and our staff can deal with so much, but we don't have the authority of a police officer. We don't have the ability to I don't know, corral people or anything like that. That would only make things worse because we're public as well. We are there to serve them, and when things get to a certain level, if they get to a certain level, they know then that they would make the necessary calls.
I think just touching on that though, Vicky, I think conflict management training isn't about becoming a policeman and removing the people from the store. It's about dealing with those difficult individuals, knowing your community and dealing with them properly. We're not asking you to be, not asking any of your staff to be police. Of course you wouldn't. You won't put them at risk. But you've already said any approach from the team about conflict management would be helpful, including domestic abuse. You can see, especially for the SIP, domestic abuse is a big priority for us here, and the lack of training is quite evident. I'm not asking you to produce your training manual now, but it just surprises me that isn't very clear within your structure around that training.
Thank you, Chair. If I can add, Chair, if that is possible. I think when we were adding conflict, you were thinking very serious violence, but actually conflict management, what we are talking about is between customers when they cause troubles, you know, how you manage. I think I see in your training manual, they have conflict management part of their training manual. But that conflict we are talking about, not like serious violence. Chair, I think also we are happy, Chair, I think we want to put forward a conditions to add, you know, conflict management training as part of our training programs. And also we will go through the council policy with the staff as well. So in terms of domestic violence and all the other issues in the area, so all the managers are aware of that. Chair, I think, thank you.
Okay, I think I was going from the question you was asked earlier by the police officer, do you have conflict manager training? The answer was no. So that's where I've come in on my question. I think the other thing I really want to ask you is about the SIP. How did you miss it? How did you miss the importance of the SIP in this area? Because you class this area as a compound. It's not a compound. It connects to the local community. The residents walk past. The residents from all over the community can walk through and walk around. It's not a compound. It's not going to be just a specific area for a certain group of people.
Yeah.
So and you called it a compound. How did you miss it? We only had our SIP reviewed at full council not that long ago. So how did you totally miss that this was an area which have these issues, and why we've got a SIP in place?
Thank you, Chair. You know, I really appreciate that for the questions. So now also when you go back, Chair, you know, on Google, you can search like a Medway licensing policy, and then it will direct to the Medway, the old policy, and also, and then you further search and you will, it address to the Chatham, Gresham. There's a Medway policies as well. Within the policy, you know, you don't see this. It's not straightforward. I'm not making any complaint, but
did you go onto the Medway Council website?
Yeah.
You said Google. Did you go onto the Medway Council website and search down for these, and you never saw it on there?
No, we did search it on that. Now you can go and search on the Medway Council website, search a licensing policy, and you will get direct to the one ended in 2018. You know, I even have a copy. And then you search it on Google, and then it will direct to that place as well, plus with the Gresham licensing policy. It's got about 60 pages, and you can see it mentions about the cumulative impact area, but the cumulative impact area, the one we show, this picture, the one we show a picture, it doesn't cover that area. It's only cover the high street, you know, and that how we put the application. But now I think that's one of the reasons we want to talk to the police and the public safety last week, really desperate to talk to them and really acknowledge that, and then really looking at, you know, how we can, you know, what we can put forward. That's one of the reasons we met with the police this morning, and we've gone through all those conditions here.
Okay, my question still stands around how you missed it. And even if you was looking at the 2018 policy, the elements in there are the same, and public health will be able to correct me, I'm sure, but the elements around what we're looking for and what we're trying to stop and what we're trying to how we're trying to improve the area and not, you know, making it better for everybody. It's all about the community and connectivity. It's not about keeping just your store in a compound and everybody out, right? So you know the basics, and I know you do because we've met before. You know the basics of a SIP. You haven't really, you know, you've missed it out on your application, really. And even, I'm asking you again, tell me what the priority of a SIP is in this Chatham town centre. You tell me what to you, what the main elements are for this SIP and why we find it really important. You tell me why we find it really important, this SIP.
And thank you, Chair. And missing that on part of the application is really upsetting me as well, in the sense that, you know, when we do the application, we wanted to perfectly mention everything. And we did that previous application, and the police knows as well. We always mention that. But in this incident, did explain to you what. But let me explain the cumulative impact in terms of the Chatham area, right? In that area. So one of the things is the street drinking is an issue. People drink on the road and street drinkers around. The other thing, domestic violence and people begging as well to get money to buy product on the street. And it's really a nuisance for other people sitting on the road, begging for money to buy like beer or whatever, right, the alcohol. And also the other things, everything relating to public nuisance issues and antisocial behavior and things like that, And also, Chair, I think the riverside is also mentioned there, the river walk. But, with the regeneration, whole of the revival, is the way I see that now, it is a big improvement. So I can see that the lighting also really good when I went there.
So you did miss the elements of the SIP with regards to your application, and you've even just mentioned it yourself. DV was a really important part of that SIP, and yet it's had to be brought up by people questioning you around that DV and around the processes and what we would want to see. It's just a surprise to me that you didn't see it. And Vicky, just a question for you, and it doesn't make a difference for the. Sorry. Just a question for you. It doesn't. I'm just asking, what do you know about the Chatham Town Centre? What do you know about Chatham itself and walking around and what issues we have and everything?
I don't know as much as my husband does. I will say that. He's the one who's the opportunist. So I come in around, perhaps should have done more before I sat here. He's abroad, so I've come in his place, really. But it is, I do wish I'd knew more.
I mean, let me just make it clear, you don't have to live here to have a licence. I was just wondering about how you can see how people are passionate around the SIP and how we want to... The regeneration part is just one small part, right? The high street is still there, everything around it, the community is still around that regeneration area. We're proud of the regeneration, but the community is still there. And there is I'm going to say to you again, there was a significant lack of detail from you for the SIP as far as I can see. But thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair. I think now...
Councillor Scott, you want to come in just final?
Just finally, I just Googled our licensing, and if you'd gone to the Medway site, it would have redirected you to Gravesham. So perhaps you didn't get redirected, but we work collaboratively as a team, and it is updated on there. So I just did that while you were questioning, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Okay.
Make a couple of observations.
Yeah, you can, thank you. Go.
So, just to clarify, and you would have read the SIP stuff. So, I'm just going to read it out verbatim because it's on the licensing agenda pack, and it's part of the police representations. And I'll read it. And it says, due to the existence of the SIP, it's the understanding of Kent Police that there's a rebuttal presumption of refusal of an application by the authority in all but exceptional circumstances, unless the applicant can demonstrate that the premises would not adversely affect the licensing objectives. So, is your application part of it, and it's actually correct in terms of the policy, is your application that your application is exceptional because of the management structure, or are you willing to put any other conditions in place? I'm giving you the opportunity to do that in front of the councillors. For example, would you be considering maybe security officers or security staff in the front of the premises? Or is your application solely based that the management structure of Budgens is such that it makes it an exceptional application? That's the question.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think one of the things, considering the whole area of Chatham, that area, this Budgens coming, there's supermarket coming as opposed to another small off license or convenient. Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. And it is, in a way, exceptional in the sense that it's a supermarket, tiny amount of space or the tiny amount of alcohol sales because of all the other large amount of variety of other product, including like a bakery, dairy items, and things like that, having that in place. The other thing, the management structure, you rightly mentioned, whether we need a security, that's the question, but they've been managing so many other premises. So the management structure, rightly they have a manager, they have 2 assistant managers, and the staff nearly about 20. They listed about a part of their management structure, nearly 20 staff working, on a regular basis. So having those extra staff, the structure they have, as opposed to a small store, this supermarket, they have, that is manageable. But on the other hand, we are happy to have a conditions on all the staff going through the conflict management training, and it's been documented and readily available for the authorities. So we have that conditions as well. And also, we could have another conditions to go through that awareness training in terms of the staff have an awareness training about the local area, including the local crime data or things like domestic violences and things like that, and also, why this is exceptional. That was one of the questions.
The point is, the point of me interjecting here is obviously it's quasi-judicial proceedings.
Yeah.
So you have to have the opportunity to present your case fairly, and in fact,
Yeah,
the chair is
sure,
allowed
definitely.
you to do that.
I will
absolutely.
understand. Okay, I got
Completely
it. Yeah.
allowed you to do that. But
Yeah.
the question really is, what makes your application exceptional
Yeah, sure.
within a SIP area?
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm.
Address it to the councillors.
Yeah, I will do that. I know I'm talking.
I think you just did. You're saying around the management structure is what makes it exceptional.
Yeah, and also the store is part of. It's not like independent one store. It's part of a larger group. They have a structure in place, and also what else? And also the staff structure we already mentioned, and again, it's part of a regeneration programs like revivals and the whole new area that also make it really highly exceptional.
Okay.
Thank you. And
Maybe
also
you
the
can
other
add,
condition we
maybe you can add some of that in your summing up as well, and then we can.
Chair, apologies, Chair.
Go
May
on,
I ask a little question?
Yeah, you can do.
Thank you. You mentioned that the total floor space dedicated to alcohol will be even less than 10%. I think you mentioned 5. Assuming it's 8, around there, would it not be economically viable to open up a non-licensed premises and still cater for 92% of other sales, unless, of course, alcohol sales, you hope for that proportion to be far greater than 8%? Would it not be economically viable just to not have a licensed premises as well?
That one of the reason, any supermarket, people want to have all the product available as much as possible. If somebody want to do a shopping and have a bottle of wine as well, they want to buy, and rather if they have not all the product, they will go somewhere else as opposed to this store. So it is important for the store to have all the products available, even though it could be like a tiny part, including things like bakery item, for example. So that's one of the.
Thank you. To clarify, so you don't propose that 8% of your floor space is going to constitute 30 or 40% of your turnover? It's going to be a relatively small number of sales.
I'm just dipping out the plan. Seconds.
I think the officer has seen the plan in the pack. I think it's about you answering the question around how important that small space of sales is.
I would just say also, that it will be complementary to the other items that we're selling. They're can be more expensive than your toilet roll and your coffee, and well, maybe not coffee actually nowadays, but certain items. So it's the percentage is maybe a little bit percentage price wise is maybe not the one to look at, but from from basket size, if you've got 7 or 10 items, it's going to be very rare that it's 10 things of alcohol and 1 pack of kitchen towel or toilet roll. So.
But still an important part for you opening a business is the licensed part.
It's what we do everywhere else, and I think it would be odd. I mean, we've obviously, as I say, we've been doing it for so long. We've got a number of premises, and we find that it's complementary. Yes, people want to come to one place to collect all their items. Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can I ask, Barbara, do you want to go first? A nice, concise report as usual.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Am I there? Yes. So the Director of Public Health is making representations under the Prevention of Crime and Disorder and the Prevention of Public Nuisance. And as has already been established, this premises is located within the Chatham High Street SIP area, which covers not just the High Street, but surrounding areas as well, which I think is an important part. There is very strong evidence of high levels of alcohol-related crime, disorder and public nuisance associated with the density of off-licensed premises in this area. And as you have said, Chair, before, this evidence was reviewed and renewed in May of last year, so it is still current and up to date. So under crime and disorder, the evidence used to support the SIP was of alcohol-related crime, disorder and nuisance, and was supplied by both Kent Police and Public Health. And I would like to refer you to page 36 of the agenda. The Council Business Intelligence Team produces ward profiles, and this shows that Chatham Central and Brompton Ward, which is the ward which the SIP is in, the majority of it is in. Oh, no, go away. Shows that Chatham Central and Brompton Ward has the highest rate of crime cases per 1,000 residents in Medway. And Fort Pitt Ward, which also covers a small part of this SIP area, has the 5th highest. And the highest types of crime in both wards are violent crime and antisocial behaviour, both of which are associated with alcohol consumption. The concern about these types of crime is still current, as is shown by the annex which I submitted as part of the representations and is included at page 40 onwards in the agenda. These figures and maps are from police.uk, which is the same source as the business intelligence team uses, and the figures are provided by Kent Police, so they are accurate. There is a full explanation within the submitted evidence of where and how the data is used. Unfortunately, the site uses the old ward boundaries, so that has to be adjusted for, but figures and location maps for the 6 months, November 2024 to April 2025, have been included, and again, crimes of violence and sexual offences which are related to alcohol or strongly related to alcohol are the highest types of crime in and around the area of the High Street, which is where the premises is located. The Chatham Public Spaces Protection Order, or the PSPO, has been introduced due to issues with antisocial behaviour and covers the majority of the Chatham SIP area, and the map can be found on page 37 of the agenda reports pack. For public nuisance, there is a general problem in the area with street drinking, antisocial behaviour and associated litter, and there are discarded cans and bottles, broken glass and evidence of public urination and defecation in alleyways and public areas throughout this SIP area. I walk around the area very regularly, both in response to applications, specifically this application, and more generally in support of evidence gathering for the SIP and licensing applications. I've seen large amounts of alcohol litter throughout the SIP and surrounding area, which I've evidenced as photographs, which are attached to pages 44 to 47. And everywhere I've highlighted for that is within a 5 to 10 minute walk from the premises. The litter and public drinking is also prevalent further afield and is not just confined to the defined SIP area. I'd like you to note that much of the discarded cans of beer and cider are not super strength. There is it's been stated, the applicant has stated that most street drinkers drink super strength, and in my experience, actually, that is not the case. There are examples of cans of Strongbow, Country Choice Cider, Stella Artois, Carlsberg, Foster's and Budweiser in my photographs, all of which are actually under 5.5% ABV, not the 6.5% as offered by the applicant. There are cans, a few cans of Frosty Jacks and Knight's Cider, which both have a lot higher ABV, but these are not the majority of products, and street drinkers do not only drink strong beer and cider, they do drink lesser strength alcohol products as well. I have witnessed street drinking almost every time I walk in the area, primarily in the High Street, but also in River Park, by the bus stop and library, and I know that there have been recent meetings that have taken place with the local MP, the police and the council, as businesses and residents have expressed concern over the current, and this is current, levels of alcohol, fuel, antisocial behaviour in the High Street, and this is an ongoing issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barbara. Have you got any questions for public health at all?
Thank you, Chair. I think one question, I think we talk quite a lot before we come to the meetings here. I know you have taken some of the pictures, but these are, I've been looking at all this street, it's quite far away from these premises, at least 10 minutes walk.
No, they're not at least 10 minutes walk. And even if they're 10 minutes walk, they're still within the SIP area.
Yeah, no, I got that. I'm not disputing that. The other thing I wanted to say, you know, when you walk close to these premises, like River Walk and all the other places, when you were working, you haven't seen any litter around that area, right?
Yes, you do. You see it along River Walk, which is along by the pier. And there's public drinking that happens almost every day in the River Park, which is by the library and the bus stop station. The bus station, you know.
Bus station.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are you doing a PC night? Nice concise report, please.
Thank you. I'll try and keep, I know Barbara's probably gone over a few bits that I'm going to go over, so I'll try and, it's warm in here, so I'll try and keep it as swift as I can. On Tuesday the 10th of July, Kent Police were asked to assess the new premises application, as we're discussing today, belonging to Block 1C Pioneer Wharf. I think on the application it was detailed somewhere else because it is a new build. The application outlined the Budgens were part of the new waterfront development, described the community-focused premises intended to support the local residents. The operator is said to have previous experience, and I think we've spoken about that today. And initially, I believe the operating times prior to coming here were 6 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the morning, since having been changed, until 6 to 11. We've already discussed that it is just off Medway Street, the Chatham waterfront development, an area which I do understand is under regeneration, and it does comprise, like we've already mentioned, the high-rise apartment blocks, and that is directly next to the Chatham bus station, a major bus route and major hub for Medway. Literally a couple of minutes walk of the High Street and the Chatham town centre. We've already discussed and we've already highlighted today that it is part of the community of impact policy. And I think Barbara mentioned to you that it was recently renewed in April 24, due to expire on the 31st of April 27. The SIP does identify the High Street of Chatham and the surrounding areas being one of the most deprived 20% of super output areas nationally. It experiences unacceptably high levels of alcohol-related crime, disorder, antisocial behaviour, public nuisance. We've already touched upon assaults, but I can also tell you that there are reports of criminal damage, arrests for drunken disorderly behaviour, alcohol-related ambulance call-outs, hospital admissions. We've touched upon domestic abuse, and we've also touched upon street drinkers, all of which is highlighted in the SIP policy, which is easily available. Barbara also mentioned that it is part of a public space protection order, previously known as alcohol control zones, I think you would be aware of, which prohibits drinking in designated public spaces. Again, we've already mentioned this, but it is the responsibility of the applicant to research the local area and propose appropriate measures to mitigate the risk identified with the SIP and the PSPO, the Public Space Protection Order, and to demonstrate how they will promote the 4 licensing objectives. As touched upon, it wasn't reviewed, and there was no reference in the application, so it's hard for me to address those. When a SIP applies and relevant representations are made, there is a rebuttable presumption of refusal unless you can demonstrate you are exceptional. And it will not diversely affect the licensing objectives. I noted prior to coming here today and this morning and the further operating schedule that you had mentioned about CCTV, Challenge 25, instant log refusals and staff training. I do appreciate that there is a further operating schedule with more conditions that you have added this morning. What I would say is a lot of those conditions are what I would expect from Kent Police's perspective as minimal standards and what every operator should be using. I can't see at the moment if there are any additional conditions you can put on that would reflect the concerns and the big concerns we have in the area. I would just like to politely remind the Chair and the Council today that the SIP policy states an application should not be considered exceptional simply because the premises is well managed and well run, as I've stated, as all licensed premises that are applying for a new licence should be. It is constructed to a high standard, or the applicant operates similar premises elsewhere without complaint. That's mentioned in the SIP policy. I won't touch upon that anymore. In addition to the SIP and the PSPO, I've conducted some further research myself. I know that there's evidence from the crime statistics, etc., but I feel like it's better sometimes from a personal point of view. I consulted with the data analysts from our end, from Kent Police's end, which is slightly different to what I think Barbara mentioned earlier. And there is clear evidence that alcohol-related crime is still continuous in the Chatham area and the SIP area. I've identified that there are assaults, domestic violence, mental health episodes is one. There have been large disturbances involving intoxicated individuals, thefts, criminal damage and sexual offences, as well as domestic abuse. I'm lucky enough to sit in the office next door to the beat officers that work Chatham as well. So I've spoken to them. They have all expressed concerns about granting another off-licence premises in the immediate area, as they feel that would add and exacerbate the problems that are already quite heightened that we've spoken about. I have put on my little notes here that I would tell you what a street drinker is, but I think we all know what street drinkers are and how they can act and behave, so I won't go into that. But what I would like to mention is there are a few of our street drinkers that have been issued with community protection warnings and community protection notices of note lately. And when I say lately, I talk about in the last month. So it is really fresh evidence. I know that 13 individuals have been issued these. 4 of those individuals have been arrested and charged and will be going to court for breaching those. So it highlights that there is this continuous problem. We are trying to do what we can from Kent Police's aspect, but there is evidence there to say it is continuing. I've also been in the area in the last weekend and noticed street drinking myself. I won't go too much into detail with that. To stop myself going on even more, but I would like to say is that by granting another off licence in the area, it will increase the availability of alcohol, attract more street drinkers, worsen the antisocial behaviour. Selling to the street drinkers wouldn't just represent failure to promote the licensing objectives, which are preventing crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance. It is in the conclusion of Kent Police that we believe that this application, and from speaking today, you are not exceptional. And you do not adequately address the risks associated with the SIP area and the concerns that I have and I've already spoken about. We respectfully request, Chair, that this is not granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Have you got any questions for the police at all?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I think.
Members, any questions for public health or the police?
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Can I say, Barbara, pictures paint 1,000 words, so can I say thank you for those? And clearly identifying where they are in Chatham also helps. And also to the police, I've been highly critical. I've been new to licensing, I've only been here a year, but I will say to you that what you've produced in this pack today is spot on, especially Appendix M onwards, because, you know, and that's from pages 35, because, you know, you cannot argue with these statistics, and because I've been critical, I feel I need to praise you when you've got it this right. But I do have a couple of questions, if that's okay, just to be fair. Would granting this alcohol licence compromise, do you feel, the police's ability to uphold the public safety, is my question one. And then my final question is, how are your resources in an area like Chatham? Are they stretched? Do you have excess resources? I think the smile might say a few words, but those are my questions to the police. Thank you, Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you. I may have to ask you to repeat the second one in a minute. I've got a habit of forgetting things, but I hope I can do okay. And thank you for your comments. Can police feel that by granting another off licence in that area, you are contributing to the readable availability to alcohol. It can only add to the problems that we have and the problems that we occur on a daily basis. The second question that you answered regarding resources, yep, okay, I got it in my head. Every department, every area that works in the police at the moment is stretched. I can't deny that. I can't comment onto how much. I don't have the facts and figures here, but I can tell you that it is a problem. I do generally every morning go through the returns for each of the areas that I look after, Medway being one of them, and I can always sell no available patrols, no available patrol to attend, and it is a daily thing. So yes, there is a problem with resources, but we do, if there is an issue, Kent Police will act and we will have people available.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, members. I'm going to go to the applicant last, so I'll go to you for summing up for anything you wish to add. Anything that you guys wish to add just at the last?
Thank you, Chair. To sum up, I believe you need to ask yourself if this applicant has proven that alcohol sold from this premises will not adversely affect the licensing objectives, and I don't believe they have. This applicant is not able to guarantee that a person buying beer from this shop will not go home and engage in domestic abuse, which is a real hidden crime largely carried out at home and has a very strong association with alcohol use and consumption. Nor can they say that someone will not buy their alcohol and then walk along the high street or into the park and drink it, causing antisocial behaviour or any other alcohol-related crime. Street drinkers do not go round with a sign over their head saying, I am a street drinker, unfortunately. I think life might be a little bit easier if they do, but they don't. This is an off licence. That is to say, the applicant is directly responsible for the sale of alcohol off the premises. We are not saying the Budgens or the applicant is not a responsible retailer, but due to the amount of alcohol-related issues in this and the wider area, the council has decided that shops selling alcohol in the SIP area need to show they will not add to these issues, and I don't believe that this applicant has done that. Calling this a supermarket or convenience shop does not change the type of licence that is being asked for. Therefore, the Director of Public Health believes there are no good reasons given by the applicant to depart from this policy, and it's reasonable to believe the sale of alcohol from this premises will contribute to the alcohol-related crime, disorder and public nuisance in this area that is current and ongoing, and therefore we ask the licensing committee to refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Kerry, do you want to add anything?
I would just like to echo the exact same reasonings. I believe we've come from a different aspect on the evidence and the information we've provided. Another off licence in the immediate area and in the SIP, which already has its concerns, would cause problems. And I'd just like to remind you of what I said in what I've already spoken about. Thank you very much, Chair.
Now to you. Would you like to just add anything and sum up from your end?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think what I want to reiterate, when we come to, so we understand all those issues, that's been all the data and all those things. This premises is not been opened, it's not like a review applications. So it's a new application we are looking at. But the question we are asking today, two things. One, whether this premises is exceptional, and other thing is how we're going to promote the licensing objectives, like how we're going to address the SIP. Chair, I think, let me tell you, I think I think this application itself an exceptional application in the sense that it is a supermarket and there's already planning is given and there's only one premises as part of the whole new regeneration and revival of this area, like bringing it out from deprivation to bringing it up. That's one of the whole a new future, new visions. Yeah, I think that make it really exceptional. And also, this is the largest supermarket, Chair, as opposed to, I mean, all the evidences here you can see is being more addressed towards the high street and the Chatham, and there are so many off licenses there. And now what we are looking at, there's no, whether we are inviting those people to this place. And that's one of the reasons it's become exceptional in the sense that we are not inviting them by way of conditions on the license. It is about promoting the licensing objectives. It is about the steps we are taking today, right? So those conditions we have provided, Chair, I think we already mentioned that the store itself is exceptional in the sense that, they supply 4 cans beer in a pack. They don't sell single cans. And the other thing is the management structure, which is also exceptional. In the sense, how do you define this exceptional, Chair? I think if you have to look at the whole area where the other premises are there, and then I didn't see in the surrounding area there is no supermarkets like this particular premises. So this particular premises is coming in itself is an exceptional things, and also they are bringing employment and big investment involved, and also the support they have from the Budgens management as well as the general public and all the other things which you have read from the public reports. Chair, I think then the question of where other things going to be exceptional. So I was looking at the plan itself, and then I was looking at where the alcohols are behind the till is there, little bit of space and the little bit of space there, and I was lying at a calculating, it's become around 11-12%. So we are happy to have a conditions to say the alcohol space, the retail space is not going to be more than 15% there, That itself make it exceptional, because if you look at, I know, really it is exceptional application. If you, when we talk to people, and when we say off license, they don't say a Tesco as an off license. I know they are selling off the premises, but it's not an off license. Sainsbury, Marks and Spencer, similarly the Budgens, right? But so right now, we provide that conditions as well, and also, I think those are the things is really make it exceptional, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Can I ask all parties to leave the room? We are going to make a decision this morning, Madam Chair. We're going to make a decision today, so we hopefully won't keep you too long. If you don't mind just leaving the room. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Obviously, it was an important decision to make, so we needed a bit of time to put it together. So the committee has listened carefully to all the written and oral submissions from the appellant, the licensing authority and the representations of all objectors to the application. The premises will be located within a cumulative impact area, SIP, as well as a public space protection order, PSPO, previously known as alcohol control zones, and are zones which restrict drinking of alcohol in designated public places. The information for this is outlined by Medway Council's Cumulative Impact and Stress Area Policy. The SIP was recently renewed until 2027. The area has been identified as one of the most deprived areas of Medway, with a high volume of alcohol-related crime, disorder and public nuisance. The committee was surprised there was no mention of the premises being within a SIP or PSPO area, or how the premises intended to promote the licensing objectives and alleviate crime and disorder, public nuisance in the written application. There was also no mention of the issues with street drinking and its associated antisocial behaviour, or what the applicant intended to do, so as to ensure the sale of alcohol will not add to the issues highlighted above. Due to the existence of the SIP, there is a rebuttal presumption of refusal of the application by the authority in all but exceptional circumstances, unless the applicant can demonstrate that the premises would not adversely affect the licensing objectives. Whilst the applicant has in some way orally addressed the above and provided an updated schedule of conditions, the committee does not deem this application as exceptional. The applicant has highlighted the management structure and the nature of the business and the new operating schedule, which was unhelpfully served just before the hearing, amongst other representations, as exceptional. However, this in itself is not sufficient, and the committee considers the applicant did not demonstrate a sufficient understanding of the SIP and of the PSPO issues in Chatham. After careful consideration of all representations in accordance with Medway Council's licensing policy, and so as to fully uphold the licensing objectives, this committee has decided to refuse the licensing application. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You'll get the written order within 5 days. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
you.